Monster Report. The Locust Whale. Designation: Locust Whale, Orcaptera, Locusta ferox. Category: Genetically engineered apex swarm. Predator. First sighting: 2135, Eastern Pacific whale ranges. Last known sighting: active and spreading, global ocean presence. Genesis of a nightmare. The locust whale is one of humanity's most haunting scientific failures. A bioengineered species that spiraled out of control. Its origin dates back to the year 2124, when the Arkoff Corporation spearheaded an ambitious initiative to secure the future of the global whaling industry. The plan was simple: genetically modify orcas to act as living guardians for the great oceanic whale ranges, vast marine preserves where blue whales and other large species were cultivated for sustainable harvesting of meat, blubber, and oil. The orcas were bred to deter natural predators, such as sharks and rogue cetaceans, while being rewarded with abundant food and resources for their service. But to minimize costs, the project's architects made a critical error, introducing a hybridized locust feed as the orca's primary diet. This feed was developed from hyper-survivalist locusts, insects renowned for their rapid reproduction, voracious appetite, and adaptability to harsh conditions. In 2128, the project escalated when Arkoff scientists spliced the genetic material of these locusts into the orca genome. The goal was to enhance the orca's vitality, increase their reproduction rate, and allow them to subsist on ocean resources without continuous human intervention. The result was the locust whale, a creature with the intelligence and predatory instincts of a mammal, coupled with the relentless efficiency and brutality of an insect. Mutation and collapse. Initially, the locust whale, Orcaptera locusta ferox, seemed to be a success. These engineered guardians excelled at repelling predators and protecting the whale ranges. However, within a decade, disturbing reports began to emerge. The locust whales exhibited behavioral shifts, forming aggressive swarms and attacking not only predators, but also each other and the very whales they were designed to protect. Their genetic modifications led to unprecedented mutation rates, and soon, entirely new subspecies began to appear in the oceans. By 2140, the situation became uncontainable. The locust whales had transformed into apex predators with unchecked growth potential. They devoured everything in their path: plankton, fish, whales, and even deep-sea ecosystems. Their voracious appetites destabilized entire marine food chains. Adding to the terror, their size was no longer confined to natural limitations. Some individuals grew to sizes rivaling small islands, their efficiency in metabolizing resources accelerating their growth to nightmarish proportions. Behavior and biology. Locust whales exhibit a unique blend of mammalian intelligence and insect-like swarm behavior. They communicate through intricate echolocation patterns, coordinating attacks and overwhelming prey in coordinated waves. Each swarm can range from a few dozen to several hundred individuals, though solitary giants, the result of unchecked growth, have also been documented. Their most distinctive feature is their eyes, multifaceted, like those of an insect, reflecting light in a kaleidoscope of colors. These compound eyes grant them exceptional vision in the pitch-black depths of the ocean and an uncanny ability to detect the faintest movements of prey. This visual adaptation also adds an unnerving, alien quality to their appearance, setting them apart from their orca ancestors. Their bodies are a grotesque testament to their unnatural origins. They possess the sleek, black and white coloration of their orca ancestors, but their skin is segmented, resembling an insect's carapace. Their jaws are lined with serrated, insectoid mandibles, capable of shredding flesh and bone. Incident: the fall of Rapture Station. One of the most infamous locust whale attacks occurred in 2156 at Rapture Station, an underwater research and extraction facility in the mid-Atlantic Ridge. The station was home to over 2,000 residents and operated as a hub for ocean mining and aquaculture. Initial warnings came from sonar operators who detected an unusual formation approaching the station. Believing it to be a pod of migrating whales, the station's administrators dismissed the threat. Within hours, however, a massive swarm of locust whales descended upon the facility. Survivors described the assault as a coordinated siege. The creatures targeted the station's oxygen generators and pressure seals, tearing through reinforced walls with their mandibles. Entire sections of Rapture Station were flooded as the swarm breached its defenses. Residents who attempted to flee were either crushed by the collapsing structure or dragged into the depths by the locust whales. Testimony from Dr. Ezra Calloway, marine biologist.
I was in the central observatory when the swarm hit. At first, it was just noise, this horrible, resonant clicking, like an entire choir of death tapping on the walls. Then the first breach. Water started pouring in, and the alarms went wild. Through the viewing window, I saw them, hundreds of them, circling like vultures. They weren't just attacking, they were thinking, coordinating. When the seals broke, it was chaos. People were screaming, water rushing in faster than we could react. I barely made it to the maintenance shaft leading to a secondary air pocket, a small compartment meant for emergency repairs. But not all of us made it. I saw Jacob, my friend, my crewmate, get caught. One of those things breached the corridor ahead of us, and Jacob fell into the rushing water. The creature hit him with its jaws first, but it didn't kill him outright. It clamped down with its serrated mandibles and began shaking him violently, tearing at his suit. Then, it did something I still can't fully understand. Its segmented throat seemed to expand and contract, pulling him deeper, but not as a whole. Jacob wasn't swallowed like prey. It was slower, more deliberate. Its jaws excreted this viscous substance, almost like resin, that coated him as it fed. He was still screaming as the resin hardened and his body was pulled into pieces, one limb at a time. It wasn't just eating him, it was breaking him down, like an insect liquefying its food. I froze, unable to move, until someone shoved me toward the air pocket. We sat there, trapped in that tiny space for hours, listening to the groaning metal and the rhythmic pounding as those things attacked the outer hull. We couldn't block out the sound of them feeding, wet, ripping noises, muffled screams in the distance, and the occasional shriek of metal being torn apart. We sat in total darkness, holding our breath every time the station shuddered, praying the compartment would hold. The water level shifted constantly in the compartment. We were going to drown, I was sure, but we didn't. It was a tight space, an uncomfortable fit. However, we couldn't leave for fear of being devoured by those things. Damn the Arkhov Corp for creating this blight on our oceans. Eventually, the noises stopped. When rescue divers found us, the station was unrecognizable, torn apart, and pictured clean. I don't know why they left when they did. Maybe they'd had their fill, or maybe they just moved on to something bigger. But I'll never forget those hours in the dark, waiting to die, with only the sound of the ocean and those creatures as company.
Closing thoughts. The locust whales are a grim testament to humanity's arrogance and the unintended consequences of meddling with nature. However, in the centuries since their creation and the chaos they unleashed, the Oceanic Defense Force has waged a relentless war against them. Through innovation, determination, and hard-earned experience, there have been significant strides in controlling and eradicating their swarms. Small, unmanned, AI-driven Ripper submarines have become the front line of this effort. These swift and lethal drones patrol known breeding grounds, equipped with high-yield explosives and cutting-edge targeting systems designed to eliminate the whales with ruthless efficiency. Their autonomous nature allows them to react faster than human pilots ever could, giving us an edge in the battle for the oceans. Even more promising is the advent of a new hybridized strain of coral reef, developed in a collaboration between independent scientists and the Arkoff Corporation. This coral, nicknamed Thanatos coral, is a natural weapon against the locust whales. When the voracious swarms attempt to consume it, the coral releases a reactive compound that quickly rots their innards, proving fatal in nearly all cases. Arkoff has begun integrating Thanatos coral into underwater city structures, farming operations, and even floating oceanic outposts, turning these once vulnerable locations into fortified bastions. While the locust whales are far from eradicated, humanity's response has turned the tide of this long conflict. The ocean remains vast, and the whales still present a formidable challenge. But the tools we've developed show that survival is possible. What was once a story of despair is gradually becoming a story of resilience and adaptation. The locust whales may be a product of our mistakes, but they have also driven us to innovate and better understand the delicate balance of our planet's ecosystems. Whether that lesson will stick, or whether we are doomed to repeat these mistakes, remains to be seen. For now, the ocean, while dangerous, is no longer completely lost to us. Monster Report. The Thanatos. Coral, Thanatos, jellyfish. The name Thanatos coral draws from Greek mythology, named after the god of death, Thanatos, a fitting title for an organism that brings a swift and often horrifying end to those that threaten its domain. Initially created as a defense mechanism against the rampant locust whales, the coral was bioengineered to spread rapidly across vulnerable underwater structures, its reactive compounds lethal to the invasive creatures. It was hailed as a breakthrough, a natural solution to a man-made crisis. But with this innovation came a deadly flaw. Thanatos coral is unrelenting in its expansion. Unintended consequences. Released into the oceans in 2173, the coral thrived, adapting quickly to its environment. It became a staple in underwater city defenses and was even used to protect floating oceanic farms. However, its design included the ability to anchor and spread across metal infrastructure, ensuring it could shield critical installations. This key feature became humanity's nightmare. Over time, the coral mutated into a strain capable of feeding on the very metal structures it was designed to protect. Entire sections of underwater cities, ships, and drilling platforms became overrun with the coral, reducing them to crumbling husks. To combat this, AI-driven scrub drones were developed. These drones tirelessly patrol underwater installations, clearing coral growths and repairing structural damage. The cost of maintaining these systems is astronomical, but they are the only thing standing between humanity and total collapse of its oceanic infrastructure. The Thanatos coral must be maintained in balance with the structures it protects, or it becomes an absolute menace and pest, ever growing and expanding. Potential for horror when nature becomes the monster. While the Thanatos coral has proven a critical asset in defending against predators like the locust whales, its rapid adaptability and aggressive nature hold the seeds of a much darker future. The Thanatos coral was humanity's desperate answer to the horrors of the locust whales. Yet, like many of our solutions, it carries the seeds of its own disaster. For now, AI scrub drones work tirelessly to maintain the balance. But the question remains: how long before the coral evolves beyond our control? Update and overview. The Thanatos. Aurelia, commonly referred to as the coral jelly, represents one of the most horrifying unintended consequences of Thanatos coral's ability to merge with marine life. While jellyfish are already one of the ocean's most terrifying and enigmatic creatures, the coral's symbiotic relationship with them has resulted in a colossal, hyper-efficient predator that is a true anomaly of nature. Combining the jellyfish's natural defense mechanisms with the Thanatos coral's insatiable hunger for metal and organic matter, the coral jelly has become a terror that is both a living ecosystem and a destructive force. Name origin. The name Thanatos. Aurelia is derived from the Greek mythological figure Thanatos, the personification of death, and the species' resemblance to the Aurelia aurita, or moon jellyfish. The name underscores the deadly efficiency of this hybridized predator and its role as a harbinger of destruction in the deep sea. Creation and background. The Thanatos. Aurelia first appeared after the Thanatos. Coral was introduced into the oceanic ecosystem to combat the spread of invasive marine species like the locust whale. However, the coral quickly adapted to marine life, attaching to jellyfish populations in the deeper, more isolated regions of the ocean. The coral infected entire colonies of jellyfish, altering their biology and creating a deadly hybrid organism. Over time, these coral jellies grew to immense sizes, with their natural forms twisted into horrifying versions of what they once were. What began as an experiment to study symbiotic relationships between marine creatures and coral evolved into a monstrous predator that has left a trail of destruction in its wake. Physical characteristics. The Thanatos. Aurelia is far from your average jellyfish. These creatures can reach bell diameters up to 150 feet, with some rare individuals growing even larger. The bell is made of a thick, almost crystalline layer of Thanatos coral, which serves as both armor and a biological vessel. The coral has replaced the jellyfish's natural gelatinous substance with a hardened, alien exoskeleton that gives it an impenetrable surface. This armor can withstand extreme pressure from the ocean depths, making the coral jelly capable of thriving at crushing depths where most other creatures cannot survive. The Thanatos. Aurelia's tentacles have been transformed into whip-like structures, covered in layers of hardened coral that act as razor-sharp extensions. These tentacles are not only capable of ensnaring prey, but can also slash through metal, easily tearing through the hulls of submarines and drones. The tentacles also excrete an acidic compound that corrodes anything organic, leaving behind skeletal remains in their wake. Its eyes, once the simple visual organs of a jellyfish, have been replaced by a bizarre form of compound vision. Rather than traditional eyes, the Thanatos Aurelia possesses a network of coral-formed, multi-lensed organs that give it a broad field of view, capable of detecting even the faintest movements in the water. This feature makes it a deadly predator, able to detect and track prey over vast distances. Behavior and abilities. The Thanatos. Aurelia operates with the cold, calculating precision of an apex predator. It uses its massive size and coral-infused body to slowly drift through the deep, waiting for the ideal moment to strike. Unlike other jellyfish, which rely on passive drifting and stinging to capture prey, the coral jelly is far more aggressive. It uses its massive tentacles to ensnare and immobilize anything it deems as prey, from unsuspecting sea creatures to human-built submarines. Once it has immobilized its prey, the coral jelly releases a deadly acidic secretion from its tentacles that dissolves the flesh and metal alike, breaking down everything into digestible material. The Thanatos. Aurelia's hunger is unrelenting, and it does not stop until every bit of its prey has been consumed, leaving behind only wreckage and destruction. It has an extraordinary ability to adapt to its environment. When faced with threats, such as AI-controlled drones or aggressive military tactics, the coral jelly can swiftly retreat and regenerate its coral armor, making it nearly impervious to conventional attacks. Its immune system, bolstered by the symbiotic Thanatos coral, also grants it rapid healing capabilities, ensuring that it can withstand most injuries without much difficulty. The creature also has a disturbing ability to merge with its surroundings. If the coral jelly becomes threatened, it will dissolve into the coral, disappearing from view and creating a nightmarish, living reef that is nearly impossible to detect without specialized equipment. Historical impact and incidents. The Thanatos. Aurelia first came to widespread attention after a catastrophic attack on the Stygian 6 Oceanic Research Sub in 2197. The station was located in the abyssal depths, far from human civilization, and was conducting studies on oceanic symbiosis when the coral jelly struck. What follows is the black box, recording recovered in the wreckage of the Stygian 6.
Captain Lancer, speaking of the Stygian 6 Marine Research Sub. All right, we're descending into the trench now. Sonar's clear, but we're picking up some low-level interference. Could be some large creatures in the area, but nothing to be concerned about. Hold tight. Wait, that's odd. The sonar's picking something up now, slightly above us. Not sure what it is, but it's large. Maybe a deep-sea predator. I'll report it when we surface. What the hell? That was... Something just struck the hull. Checking for damage now. Everyone hold on. Brace for impact. We've been hit hard. Systems failing, rebooting, hold tight. I can't tell what's causing the damage. Sonar's going wild. Whatever it is, it's huge. We need to get back to the surface. Now. It's moving fast right on top of us now. I can't get a fix on it. It's massive. I need to know what this is. We're descending too deep. Manual override is failing. God, I see it. It's some kind of jellyfish. No, it's too large, too alien. There's something all over it. Coral. It's everywhere, growing on it like a parasite. It's moving, shifting. Its tentacles are wrapping around us. It's inside the hull. We need to get out now. It's been nice knowing all of you. I'm not sure we will make it. No, we're stuck. There's no way out. We're sinking deeper, deeper into the abyss. If anyone hears this, please tell them it's real. Don't go down there.
This recording is the last known communication from the Stygian 6 Marine Research Sub. No survivors were found. Closing thoughts. The Thanatos. Aurelia remains one of the most enigmatic and terrifying creatures in the ocean. It is a living nightmare, a predatory monster that evolved from the perfect fusion of natural and synthetic biological processes. The ability of this creature to grow unchecked and to adapt to any environment makes it a persistent and evolving threat. If the Thanatos Aurelia were to spread unchecked, it could potentially bring entire oceanic cities to their knees. With no natural predators and a constant hunger for both organic and synthetic material, the coral jelly is a terrifying reminder of what happens when humanity meddles with forces far beyond its understanding. For now, our best defense lies in the use of highly advanced surveillance systems and rapid response submersibles to track and contain the Thanatos Aurelia. However, as long as it continues to adapt, Humanity's hold on the oceans will remain tenuous at best. It's only a matter of time before this creature, and its kind, find new ways to outwit our technologies. Monster Report: The Talok Behemoth, the Oceanic Invader. Introduction. Captain R. Klein of the Oceanic Defense Fleet reports,
The discovery of the tether was initially a mystery. First identified by our deep space satellites in 2312, it appeared to be an immense organic structure, drifting through deep space like an otherworldly strand of rope, suspended between distant galaxies. At first, we thought it was a natural anomaly, some strange cosmic phenomenon. But in 2319, the truth revealed itself, and it was far more terrifying than we ever imagined.
the tether is the biological conduit for a species of interplanetary predators known as the Talok behemoths, creatures that travel through space by anchoring themselves to planets using this tether, pulling themselves and their spawn across the void. They are not just predators, they are cosmic invaders, and the tether is their lifeline. It is a conduit for life and destruction, carrying their offspring to new worlds. The tether, an unfathomable biological connection. In 2319, a research expedition led by the Mantis Corporation sought to study the origins of the tether after it was detected near a distant planet, then labeled Asteros. Preliminary scans revealed an organic structure far beyond anything we'd encountered, seemingly without any purpose other than to anchor something larger to the planet. The tether was able to generate energy from the planet's core, absorbing the energy in a way that seemed symbiotic, yet parasitic. At first, we had no idea what kind of creature could be sustained by such a mechanism. But everything changed when it was reported that the tether was reaching toward Earth. The tether's sudden shift toward our solar system began in early 2340. As the tether expanded, it began to connect to distant satellites, orbital platforms, and, to our horror, Earth's own moon. Shortly after, large-scale energy fluctuations were detected in the ocean's depths, an indication of an anomaly that could no longer be ignored. Scientists, military personnel, and bioengineers were rushed to study the new readings, fearing the unknown. Unfortunately, our worst fears came true. In 2342, the tether anchored itself deep within Earth's oceans, specifically in the Mediterranean. It wasn't until the initial waves of the Talok behemoths began to appear, massive creatures emerging from the ocean depths, that humanity understood the real nature of this threat. Once the tether reaches a planet, it deposits a fragment of the behemoth's life cycle, small, seemingly harmless larvae that begin their work within the ocean depths. The first stages are quiet, unnoticed. But within months, these larvae develop rapidly into mature behemoths, creatures of immense size and destructive potential. Life cycle and discovery. The behemoths, massive alien predators. The Talok behemoths are nothing short of monumental. Adult behemoths reach lengths of over 400 meters, their bodies armored with thick scale-like plates that shift and shimmer with a metallic luster. Their worm-like appendages, capable of launching from their bodies with incredible force, act as anchors and weapons. Massive mandibles, used to tear apart anything they encounter, allow them to feed on the planet's organic and mineral resources. But these creatures do not arrive alone. As they travel through space, the tether is used to release their spawn, larval behemoths. These larvae are tiny, yet incredibly efficient at spreading and adapting. When they land on a new planet, they begin to feed on local resources, using whatever biological means they have to grow and reproduce. Over time, the larvae grow into full-fledged behemoths, creating a cycle of never-ending destruction. What is most horrifying, however, is their adaptability. The behemoths are capable of changing and evolving based on their surroundings. Their biological structure allows them to incorporate traits from the planet they colonize, giving them the ability to blend with and adapt to the local environment, ensuring their survival. They even seem to mimic the planet's dominant species. In the case of Earth, they have developed towards a humanoid tendency. The Battle of the Mediterranean, humanity's first encounter. The first encounter with the Tlaloc behemoths on Earth occurred in 2343 in the Mediterranean Sea. The creature's arrival was marked by a series of violent tremors beneath the ocean, followed by mass die-offs of sea creatures, as the behemoth's larvae consumed everything in their path. Later that year, the first full-scale attack of the Tlaloc behemoths occurred, crushing all the Earth into an anxious despair. The Mediterranean, a region heavily populated with underwater cities and research facilities, became the epicenter of the behemoth assault. It began with sightings of massive pods drifting on the surface of the sea, resembling egg-like creatures covered in scales. Within hours, they began sinking to the ocean floor, where they connected to the ocean's deepest trenches. By then, the first behemoths emerged from the depths, rising like colossal mountains out of the water. The first reports from the military were cryptic, but unmistakably terrifying. Lieutenant Markson of the Mediterranean Defense Fleet recalls,
"We saw the first one rise from the ocean like a titanic nightmare. It was over 300 meters long, with its tendrils stretching into the sky, lashing at everything in its path. When it attacked, it seemed to move with brutal precision. It was godlike and alien. The ocean itself felt like it was being torn apart. Our ships were powerless against it. I thought I saw the ocean boiling, like something was eating it from below. We couldn't stop it. We had to evacuate the cities."
As the Tlaloc behemoths emerged, they began tearing through underwater cities with terrifying efficiency. Their mandibles snapped steel and concrete as if it were paper. The survivors described the event as pure, unrelenting chaos. Underwater domes were breached, and the infrastructure was utterly obliterated. The Oceanic Defense Force, along with military assets from the Earth Alliance, deployed specialized anti-behemoth weapons. However, the Tlaloc behemoths proved to be much more resilient than expected. They not only withstood the most advanced naval weaponry, but also adapted rapidly to human tactics. Each failed countermeasure gave rise to a new, more horrific form of the behemoth. By the end of the assault, it was clear that the Tlaloc behemoths had only just begun their invasion. The oceans of Earth, once thought to be secure, had become the battleground for an ancient alien species seeking to conquer a new world. Further testimony. Survivor testimony from the battle comes from a former naval officer, Captain Richard Harrow, who was stationed aboard the Admiral Howe during the attack.
"We couldn't understand what we were seeing at first. It was like a storm had formed on the horizon, dark, unnatural. The first behemoth rose from the depths, tearing through the ocean surface. I've seen whales, I've seen leviathans, but this thing was different. It devours, it destroys, it corrupts. Over the course of 2 days, the behemoth laid waste to entire underwater cities. The floating cities of the Mediterranean fared even worse. Cretius was a beautiful float city 50 miles south of the island of Palma. It was designed in the old architectural ways and stylings of Rome. It maintained rich landscapes and massive villas for the wealthy, a hedonistic playground. It was decimated in mere hours by one of those things. The most horrifying part wasn't just its size, but how quickly it multiplied. It would rupture and break open, spilling its larvae into the waters, and each one of them would become a new predator, growing faster than we could anticipate. We tried everything, from artillery strikes to deep-sea drones, Nothing worked. The creatures were too resilient, too alien. I lost a lot of good men that day. That battle marked the beginning of our ongoing fight. The Mediterranean was the first, but we knew we weren't safe anywhere. That was 10 years ago now, but those monsters are still out there, spreading through the oceans like a plague. And the worst part? We still don't know how to stop them.
Closing thoughts. For over 200 years, humanity has battled the Tlaloc behemoths, and the war is far from over. The Tlaloc behemoths' assault on Earth's oceans follows a distinct pattern. They attack in waves. These surges of violence come in bursts of activity, lasting anywhere from a few months to a couple of years, before the behemoths seemingly disappear, retreating back into the abyss. These periods of inactivity, stretching 15 to 20 years, provide humanity with a brief reprieve from their devastating presence. During these calm periods, the oceans may return to a false sense of peace, but it is always temporary, and the fear of their return lingers like an unspoken truth beneath the surface. Humanity's adaptation to the beasts. It is this cyclical nature of the behemoth's attacks that has allowed humanity to adapt and innovate. After decades of struggle, the Oceanic Defense Force, in collaboration with leading scientific research, has begun to develop increasingly advanced technologies to not only track and combat the behemoths, but also to understand and manipulate the very force behind their arrival, the tether. For the first time, humanity has started to develop technology capable of interacting with the tether itself. Deep-sea mining drones, equipped with electromagnetic and bioreactive fields, have begun to sap the tether's energy, redirecting it for use as a potent power source. These new energy sources are reshaping humanity's relationship with the oceans, as entire underwater cities and fleets are now powered by the energy harvested from the tether. But this power extraction comes at a cost. Every time we interfere with the tether's flow, we risk drawing the behemoths back into our world sooner than anticipated. Essentially, we have developed methods in deep space and underwater for harvesting the energy from the tether. We use biological components to parasite off its energy, like hacking into an electrical line. We then convert this energy to massive biological converters. The technology is ever evolving, but shows incredible promise. Despite this dangerous gamble, the advancements made in energy manipulation offer a glimmer of hope for Earth's future. Soon, the very force that once brought destruction could be turned into humanity's greatest ally. But for now, we must remain vigilant. With every burst of activity, every new invasion, we are reminded that the Tlaloc behemoth's war against our oceans is far from over. And while we may have gained ground in this ongoing battle, it is the ocean's relentless, cyclical nature that ultimately dictates the fate of our struggle. Beneath the Wave, a poem. In the depths where darkness swells, where silence hides and terror dwells, the Tlaloc behemoths stir and wake, and oceans tremble, quake, and break. Their tethered force, a cruel command, spreads far and wide across the sand, from distant stars to earthly shores, a wave of death that shakes our core. The tide may ebb, the years may pass, but soon they'll rise from depths of glass. In surging waves, they hunt and kill, to silence life, to break our will. We fight with steel, with fire, with light, but still they come, a darkened blight, yet hope remains in shadows thin. A battle fought, but never won. For as the ocean holds its breath, the behemoths dance in depths of death. A cycle born from cosmic dust, a force we fight, but dare not trust.